We are back again for another episode of the Erectile Dysfunction Radio Podcast. We are joined by Dr. Joshua Schammel. Dr. Schammel is a urology resident in Albany, New York, and he is going to help us understand more about morning erections. Thank you, Dr. Schammel, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So many men experience erections upon waking up in the morning. We want to better understand this phenomenon and what it can tell us about erectile function. So to get us started, Dr. Schammel, are morning erections connected to nocturnal erections? And can you explain this phenomenon as well?
Absolutely. So all men, as we sleep at night, we get erections. And most of the research coming out of kind of sleep medicine is saying that this is predominantly associated with REM, which is kind of the rapid eye movements, deep dreaming, everything like that. Mm-hmm. They have also looked at testosterone levels throughout the night. They find that, your testosterone is probably at its lowest point right when you fall asleep. And then the testosterone levels gradually rise over time and kind of peak during your first REM cycle, and then kind of continue to remain elevated throughout the night and through you waking up in the morning. And so during this process, it kind of, especially seen during episodes of REM sleep throughout the night, they have found that many men have erections while they sleep. And so there's a lot of hypothesized reasons for why this is. There's been thoughts of that's been associated with kind of dreams or more erotic kinds of dreams at times. There's also thoughts that this is involved with kind of the body kind of testing systems while it rests. And so making sure that, erectile function is still capable and whatnot throughout the evening. And then, many men, especially, depending on when they wake up in a cycle, because we don't always track everything with REM sleep, will wake up with morning erections. If you don't wake up with an erection, it's not entirely the fact that you didn't have any overnight. It actually could just be a timing thing with regards to the REM cycle and when you were kind of aroused from sleep at that point. But they have seen that kind of, especially in even men as they get older. There was a paper from the 70s that even showed that this occurs in gentlemen who are in their 70s and 80s as well. Yeah.
So, it's interesting when you're talking about these different theories or hypotheses about what might be causing this, and you're thinking about, men who are aging. And many of the men that I work with as they age will tell you that erotic thoughts do tend to decrease. It'd be interesting to see if there is a corollary in that population between whether they do continue to have erotic thoughts maybe during the day. Obviously, we can't know exactly what the brain generates during sleep. It's hard to really know what's being tapped into with each individual. But it does kind of make you wonder if men, into their 70s and 80s who may not necessarily be sexually active or interested are continuing to get those nocturnal erections, what might be the body's reason, or why is that happening? But all that being said, so is the morning erection is that considered a continuation of that nocturnal erection process, or is there something unique that happens specifically around waking up?
So what I've been able to kind of ascertain from the research and whatnot was that this is kind of just a continuation of the trend that kind of occurred throughout the night. Insofar as that your testosterone levels are also the highest they are going to be during the day, especially right when you wake up in the morning. And it's interesting because, they have seen that the incidence of erections, so how many erections you get in a night, and how often it's associated with REM, does tend to go down as you get older, which kind of goes with the thought of, you become slightly unhealthier as you get older. Your testosterone levels start to drop off after a certain time period. But then continuing to see it in individuals who are in their 70s and 80s is a good sign. The test that used to be done for this before we started kind of everything with computers and sleep studies and all this stuff used to be something called the postage stamp test. And you would take a roll of postage stamps and you would wrap it around a man's penis when he went to sleep. And then you would look to see if the perforations were torn when he woke up. It isn't a perfect test because, individuals can toss and turn, and that could cause some false positives in the test, but it would kind of show you that you're having erections, even though you don't realize it throughout the night.
And I would assume that insurance was not covering the cost of those postage stamps. So, with a combination of modern technology and insurance, plus the rising cost of postage stamps means that you probably should go in to see your doctor and get properly tested if you have these concerns. But that kind of leans towards my next question, which is, does not getting a morning erection, as some men report, they just don't wake up with morning erections, is that indicative of a problem, especially if a man is not necessarily having constant trouble with erections, but is having trouble at times? Is there something that as a doctor you can ascertain from the fact that there are no reported morning erections?
Yes. So if an individual is starting to, if a guy comes in and says, hey, over the past week, I really haven't had any morning erections, again, taking a full view of them as an individual, how healthy they are, how young they are, may or may not set up some alarm bells in my head. Mostly if they're coming to, me as a physician with this complaint, it's probably been going on for a lot longer. And so, if we have a trend established of, hey, doc, I'm not waking up with any erections, and they're coming to me, it's probably been going on for several months at the very least, coupled with the fact that if they are starting to experience, less than satisfying erections during sexual activity, would probably start to lead me down the path of maybe this is something we need to start doing something about because this is starting to affect. It's interesting because they've done, in individuals who have kind of psychogenic ED or anxiety, they actually get very strong erections at night. So, and that's when the psychological component isn't playing as much of a role, or at least what the sleep medicine is saying. But again, looking at some of these individuals, as you eloquently put in a prior episode, the erection is kind of the canary in the coal mine. And so these individuals who are coming in and saying, hey, I'm not having morning erections anymore. I'm starting to have some decrease in the function of my erections when I'm aroused, when I'm trying to engage in sexual activity, really starts to show me that there is something going on here that we need to take a look at. And so obviously morning erections are more commonly associated with higher, it's probably the highest your testosterone is going to be during the day. And so if those start to go away, then it's like, maybe we need to start looking at some of your testosterone or some of the chemicals that cause testosterone release in the body, as well as, let's start looking, do you have any, comorbidities with regards to, cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes, other things that could be playing a role in the erections. And now it's starting to manifest itself when you should be getting erections all the time, even when anxiety and things like this are not playing a role.
So, Dr. Schammel, just one other thing I want to understand about morning erections before we kind of shift towards some of the implications is that many men wake up with a sensation or a need to urinate. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if there's any association between that and an erection.
So there has been some evidence for an association with an erection with a full bladder. And the best I was able to find was that it was associated with, it's like a reflex erection almost. And so it definitely makes urination in the morning very difficult, especially in gentlemen who may already have some issues with urination. But there is a role, and some of it is cross nerve signals or, full bladders pressing on nerves are kind of what are thought to maybe cause that.
Okay, so there may be some link, but that certainly is not a full explanation of morning erections.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned the psychogenic or the psychological components, which oftentimes are, certainly if they're negative, like anxiety or performance anxiety, worrying about a partner, what they're thinking, those are not going to be present during sleep. And generally, anxiety, while many people do grind their teeth and have some expressions of anxiety over the course of the night, for the most part, a lot of the anxiety when it comes to acute performance anxiety simply isn't going to be present. Now, if a man is getting those morning erections, but is reporting that he's not getting erections during the day on his own with a partner, is there any physical explanation that would account for something like this? Now, I know you mentioned testosterone levels, but I'm wondering, would that really be a satisfactory explanation, fluctuations in T levels, as opposed to starting to look down the psychogenic or relational path?
Yeah, especially if you run if this individual ends up having a sleep study and you do something to, see the quality of the erections at night, kind of to rule everything out. Then I would probably start, if they're having a good amount of erections while they sleep, if it's, of an acceptable rigidity and kind of duration, then I would start to maybe think that this has some sort of psychological component, especially if I can kind of cross some of the other health things off the list.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, going in the other direction, because I want to see if we can, leave our listeners with, other ways to kind of think about these morning erections. So if a man struggles with erections during sexual activity, mm-hmm. and let's say it's specifically with maintaining an erection, would it help to aim for or schedule sexual activity to try to line up with that morning erection? Would that help with being able to maintain an erection for an extended period of time? If a man, so to speak, has a running start and is working off of, that morning erection, or is it unlikely to really make an impact if the problem is maintaining the erection?
No, I would absolutely say, if you are waking up with morning erections still, you might as well try to optimize it if you're having difficulties in other times of the day. Take advantage of, the T cycle, take advantage of the erection being present at that time, maybe not having as many anxieties during the day as some of the other studies we're looking at, kind of, individuals, especially, today with working, we have a lot of, physical and psychological stress that happens during the day. And so, and that us being asleep kind of allows the body to rest and heal from those experiences. And so you should be as primed as you're ready to go to succeed during the day, kind of after a full night's rest. And so one might even say that having a morning erection, and you can take advantage of it because your body is at its kind of peak physical condition at that point, based on you've just received, 6 to 8 hours of, restful sleep. Mm-hmm. Your T cycle is kind of synced up with everything. So absolutely take advantage of it if you can.
Take advantage when the opportunity is there. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm wondering if you can let our listeners know when might be the right time to go to a doctor. If a man is noticing that morning erections are just not present like they used to be, how long should a man wait? And how should he be tracking this?
Absolutely. And so it is something that you would need to establish a trend on. And that is just based on the fact that you could be waking up at different cycles throughout your sleep cycle. And so if you are waking up in non-REM sleep, it's very likely that you would not wake up with an erection at that time. That being said, if you establish a trend over, let's say a month, and say, you come in and say, hey, doc, I've noticed that I've had some decrease in my sexual function when I'm with my partner. And it's not as satisfying as it used to be. As in the same, vein, I've been kind of keeping an eye on when I'm waking up with morning erections. I really haven't had anything in the past month, or, nothing that what I would really deem as a satisfactory erection, that it would be hard enough for me to achieve penetration. Then it would start to say, maybe we need to start looking into this, especially with, other aspects are starting to slip. You've kind of established that there's a trend going on with regards to waking up and you don't have these anymore. And then it's starting to look at the erection itself as, maybe we need to start working this up. Are there anxieties that have come out? Are there new issues with your blood pressure, your cholesterol, diabetes that maybe we need to look into? And then maybe we need to start thinking about starting treatment like Viagra, Cialis, or moving down the line.
Okay, so to summarize, it sounds like, again, morning erections are a totally normal process that go on in the body. There's different theories or hypotheses as to what is causing that. If a man does not get morning erections that he's aware of, that may not be indicative of a problem per se, because his sleep cycle may work in such a way that he's just not waking up with erections, but they could still be happening throughout the night. Mm-hmm. If, however, a man sees that there is a change in pattern and that is sustained over a period of several weeks or whatnot, it's important to track that and then bring that to the attention of a doctor, certainly if that correlates with erection challenges at other times, like trying to engage in sexual activity, that may be indicative of a broader issue going on that really requires further examination.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And coming back to what men can do with this, for men who are getting those morning erections, but maybe struggling with a partner at other times, there sounds like there's no disadvantage to going with what works and trying to aim partnered sexual activity around that running start of a morning erection.
Absolutely. If you have a morning erection, you can go ahead and try to take advantage of it if you can. I have plenty of patients who we've talked to and they're like, my erections are more satisfying in the morning. Great. Let's work with that.
Okay. Well, I really, really appreciate your time, Dr. Schammel, coming on, sharing this information with our patients.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.